Welcome to Bokeh, a podcast exploring the ever-blurring lines between the personal and business lives of professional photographers. This is your host, Nathan Holritz, and I'm so excited to have you join me in connecting with photographers and entrepreneurs in the photography industry as we discuss photography, building a business, and still having a life through it all. This podcast is brought to you by Photographers Edit, custom post-production for the wedding and portrait photographer. And now, let's dive into conversation. All right, so I'm here again with my friend, Lacey Oltman. Lacey, thanks for joining us again on the Bokeh podcast.
Hey, I'm excited to be here again.
Yeah, and you are actually our first repeat guest, so you hold a special honor and title. But you were with us back on episode number 8, talking about finding your ideal client. Today, we're going to dive into a pretty loaded topic, really, and that is how to use Instagram as a marketing platform more effectively. And originally, we were going to break this into 2 episodes. Today, we're going to actually just go ahead and try to push all of it into one. And so we're going to be flying through lots of information. If you guys are listening to this episode, get out your notebooks or your computers, your phones, get ready to take some notes. Lacey's got a lot of great information to share with you. And we're breaking this really into 2 different segments, right, Lacey? The first is how to create a purpose-driven Instagram account. So let's dive into that first segment. What does it mean to have a purpose-driven Instagram account?
What it means is that we're going to be creating such a distinct idea of who we're speaking to that, like, every time that we're ready to post a photo on Instagram, we know it's going to be the perfect fit for your client, your ideal client.
And I really like that. And this is, I've laughed about this multiple times over now. You and I have kind of joked about it, but I was personally and professionally using Instagram in a bit of a random manner. And you called me on that. In fact, you called me on it multiple times and thrown tips and tricks at me, which have been so helpful. And I can't thank you enough for that. Kind of pushed myself personally again and our brand in the right direction. But this simple notion of starting with a specific purpose in mind to drive everything that you do. It's so simple, yet it's so powerful. So this is really, really important. How then do we go about creating that purpose-driven Instagram account?
Well, we want to have more engagements and interactions in our posts, and
Sure.
we want to create compelling content to attract that interactivity, and therefore those 2 will attract your ideal client.
That makes sense. So then in order to kind of get started with creating this purpose-driven Instagram account, what's the first thing that you're going to want to do?
Well, what I have done personally, and I found it very useful, is I created a story first about my ideal client. The reason why I did that is since Instagram is, picture it as like a love language.
Yes.
Or like when you're on meeting a new friend or you're on a date and you are wanting to engage with them and find out more about them, you utilize it to speak to that ideal client. So what I did with that was first create a story of my ideal client. So where she lives, of course, I even gave her a name. Her name is Charlotte.
That's awesome.
Her age, her types of friends she hangs out with, her goals, where she likes to shop, where she likes to eat, her fears, just really created this person. And then that taught me how to speak better when posting content on Instagram.
That makes sense. Now, when you talked to me about this before, I think you actually even described a scenario where you sat down with like a notebook or journal or something and really took the time to completely imagine it, and then you wrote out these details. Is that right?
Yes, I did. Yeah. No, it was just really, really helpful. Because now, granted, Charlotte isn't the only client. We do attract a lot of different types of clients, but overall, me making her as if she was a real person, I would always try to resonate. Would Charlotte like this post? Would Charlotte relate to this caption?
That's right. And by being that specific, that then drives the type of content that you're creating. Because let's be real, there's an incredible amount of noise in the social media spectrum, right? Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, et cetera. So in order to rise above that noise even a little bit, that's probably the simplest way to go about at least beginning to do that is to have a very specific purpose for your account. And the way that you're going to do that, the first really effective step to creating that purpose-driven account then is to very, very specifically and definitely imagine this person that you're trying to speak to. So I think that's really, really powerful. The next step that you and you and I have discussed this topic at length at this point, but one of the things that you talked about after then establishing who this person is, who your target client is that you're going to be communicating to with your Instagram account, you then define a type or a style of Instagram account. I think you mentioned that there are 4 different types of accounts. Is that right?
Yeah, there is. There's informative, lifestyle, specialty, and aesthetic.
Okay.
Informative is you like statistics and progress reports. You like people, when people go to you for questions, you want to be, or you're striving to be, the leader expert in your industry or trade. You have a strong opinion and you love sharing information.
That's great. And you might even, I mean, maybe a synonym to that would be educational. Are you educating people? Does that follow the same idea?
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you really think about it, when a potential client or a human being in general approaches your Instagram account, we always determine, do I want to follow this person or not? So we have to give them a reason to want to follow us.
Sure.
So anything that you do should probably be educational, inspirational, and the aesthetics should just flow. It'll make the content that you post, the photos that you post, it will have a common factor to make them flow from left to right as you would reading.
Sure, that makes sense. Okay, but let's jump back to the 4 specific type of accounts. So the first one that you mentioned was the informative account. So I'm sharing information relative to a particular topic. I want to establish myself as the expert. So that's the first type. And then what's the second type?
Lifestyle. Lifestyle is actually the account that I utilize. That's my love language.
Okay.
And that's basically, you have no problem sharing personal info. Now, granted, keep it professional. Don't go too deep into your personal life. But
Right.
For example, I will post a picture about a date my husband and I went on, or a walk in the park with my children. I'm confident in my personal style. I don't mind being in photos. People compliment you on your looks, your taste, your decor. You're outgoing, and I like to connect with people. That would be a lifestyle account.
And why would you choose a lifestyle account, for example, over an informative account when we're talking about a photography business? What is the benefit for you and your photography business in doing that?
Ooh, that's a fantastic question. The reason why I do that is because I believe in authenticity and personalization. So I want my clients to see who I am. I want them to get to know me that way. That way they feel comfortable with engaging with me with, let's say, for, a family portrait session.
Sure. And then I guess by clearly establishing who you are, you're naturally going to draw in a client who is similar to you, which just naturally means, or hopefully anyway, naturally means that you're going to be creating an experience for this client that is even better. They're connecting with you on a personal level now. They just like who you are as an individual, so it makes sense that they hire you as a photographer.
Exactly. To me, that's a beautiful thing, because you know what? Not everybody's going to like me. They're not. And that's just how life goes.
Sure.
And so that's okay. Send them on their way, but that's not even my ideal client to begin with. So it kind of does the work for you by weeding out the less than ideal client.
That's perfect. Okay. So 4 types of accounts. The first one's informative. The second one is lifestyle. What's the third type of account?
Specialty. And this one you prefer to be more so behind the scenes. You're complimented often for your services and products. You have a unique product and it makes you special. You prefer a business brand rather than sharing your personal brand. And clients basically consider you an expert.
Okay. And in some ways there's some similarity there to informative, but this is more about representing a brand versus trying to educate clients on a particular topic. So
Absolutely.
That makes sense. All right. So then we're to the fourth type of account. What is that?
Aesthetic. And this one is partially another one that I do. And you can combine, a few of these in your Instagram. So like, for example, I do lifestyle and a bit of aesthetic. And what aesthetic is, extremely detailed oriented. You're a planner. You love to style everything from your food, your stationery supplies, clothing, decor. You notice everything, misspellings, you name it. You prefer communicating mostly through pictures.
Okay, perfect. And you mentioned earlier when you were talking about the idea of aesthetic, this notion of flow to your imagery. that you're posting to your Instagram account. This is something you've discussed with me before. I know it's not a strength of mine at this moment, and I'm kind of sort of trying to figure out how to do that best, both on a personal level and with my business brand as well. But talk to us a little bit about what that looks like, how you would set that up.
So an aesthetic, you would decide basically, let's say a color scheme. We'll start there. So that's something we all can easily identify with.
Sure.
So let's say you post one photo of white peonies, and then you post a second photo of a white mug of coffee and your Apple laptop. And then a third post or a picture that you would post would be a pair of white Converse Chucks. Pretend to see these images.
Sure.
What was the main color in those three images?
Certainly white.
Yes. And so that would be the aesthetic of it. You are doing a light, airy Instagram. White is going to be the predominant color in your Instagram. And it gives your Instagram a very tailored, customized look.
Yeah, and I know that I've personally experienced accounts that are that way. I naturally, and I think you alluded to this before in conversation with me, it's this idea of creating an account that just, it makes people want to keep looking. And when there is that consistency, it's so much easier to do that. Before I even dive into looking at an individual image, it's just nice to scroll through the thumbnails because it just looks pretty. And as photographers, and then of course photographers who are trying to draw in a potential client who also, at least to an extent anyway, is going to be kind of visually focused, it's important to create an aesthetic that is consistent on multiple levels, but ultimately, hopefully it accurately represents your brand and consistently represents your brand. So that's a really great recommendation. That's perfect. So for those of you listening in, this first section, we've talked about a few ideas on how to effectively create a purpose-driven Instagram account. If you're taking notes, get ready to continue, or I should say continue. You're going to continue writing here, taking notes. We're going to jump into the second section. And we're moving now from kind of the larger overview of what is my Instagram account about and what is the big idea and ultimately the aesthetic as well that is going to drive what I post. We're moving now into creating individual posts. And yet again, this can be so easy to just throw content out there. Hey, this seems funny to me right now, or this seems interesting to me right now, or this seems pretty to me right now, and I'm just going to kind of randomly post that. But there are more effective ways to create a post that is going to actually grab the attention of our potential client or existing clients. And I know that you're going to dive into that. I think we've got kind of three main ideas to dive into here with a lot of notes. So Lacey, take it away. What's the first step to creating a more compelling Instagram post?
I think captions should focus on your brand category. So that would be the four that we discussed previously:
Sure.
Informative, aesthetic, specialty, lifestyle, and to basically further the experience of the photo.
Okay, that makes sense. So when we're talking about a caption, it should reflect, how would that be applicable, for example, if you have a lifestyle account like yours? What would the caption say in a scenario like that?
So instead of just posting a picture, right? So let's just say you posted a picture and you're in LA and you're standing on a rooftop of this cool hotel and you have a glass of wine in your hand. You could say in LA, and that's it, right?
Sure.
But that doesn't really tell us the story. That just says, okay, well, we know she's in LA, but you got to write more to draw the. You got to write in a way that attracts your ideal client, but also tells a story. So, giving you an example, you're on the rooftop of the cool hotel. You're in LA, and you have a glass of wine. Okay, for example, me being in LA recently, when I was with my creative director going through my rebranding process, I said something like, here in LA with my creative director, enjoying the rooftop view of Hollywood, and then go on from there, explaining a little bit more.
But you're telling you talked about a story earlier. More specifically, you're telling a personal story. When our brand, our Instagram account, is a lifestyle account, then the focus there is on a personal story, communicating a personal story. So that makes sense. Instead of just kind of posting bland, factual information, like you said, you want to make it interesting, but you want to make it personal in this case as well. So that makes sense. Take us.
I'd say things like, since I'm standing on top of the rooftop, right? So just say something catching, like in the epic center of it all, the view up here looks good. Things like that gave your viewers, they knew the where, the when, and the why, and it drew it all together.
That's perfect. The where, the when, and the why. Okay, you guys are taking notes. Make sure to write that down. That's really great. All right, continue to walk us through this process of creating a compelling caption.
So the next one is, I would say, stay away from always using a caption to push sales.
Yes.
And so going back to, again, my Instagram, I post personal and authentic content so that my ideal client or my potential client or my followers feel like they can get to know me. They know who Lacey is. And if we always push sales first, it's a turnoff. It's like, but why would I want you to, take pictures of my family? Why would I want to bring you aboard on my personal little nucleus? So if you always do like a sales pitch, it's just kind of like that annoying car salesman guy,
That's a great way to put it. And I know that I tend to lean the direction of being, I don't know, coming across too professional or worrying about being too professional or too structured, not being personal and kind of open enough. So this is definitely something that I have to work on. And this actually reminds me of something I've been listening to in the last day or so. You may know, and certainly some of our listeners may know, a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk has become quite popular in the last couple of years, maybe a little bit more. He's written a number of books on the topic of marketing, and he talks a lot about how to go about the process of using these social media platforms for marketing. But one of the things he says, in fact, actually, he wrote a whole book about the idea that's titled Jab, 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 Right Hook. And
No.
it's a metaphor that represents this notion of sharing, adding value, doing that multiple times over, and then every once in a while, and just every once in a while, not selling as much as making an ask. So then it's personal too, right? Like you said, you're not that annoying car salesperson who's just up in your face and trying to sell you something. You're just asking for something, and
Right.
that's the right hook. And
Fantastic. Yes.
yeah, and so I think this is a really important point, the notion of staying away from being too pushy sales-wise. Share some type of value add or share something personal, draw those people in, and then occasionally ask them for something or sell them something. I think that's a really effective way to use that account. And then,
Or even give them something like a free PDF, a checklist. Like I created a PDF that I posted a picture on my Instagram, and then telling that it was, for example, 5 wedding shoes that won't sink into the grass. Because as we all know, as ladies, when we wear heels at a wedding, and it so happens to be, on a grassy lawn or whatever, our spikes of our heels sink into the grass.
right.
It's really, really annoying.
I can't say that I have personally had that experience. So yes, I will defer to your expertise.
Oh, you should have that experience. It feels fabulous. You need a pair.
All right, and then when it comes to writing a compelling caption, the last point that you had shared with me was the idea of mixing short and long. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So sometimes our attention spans, especially nowadays, because we have so much technology that we utilize, we're not trying to, we stay on a subject or a topic, a photo, whatever, for more than like 6 seconds at the most. 3 if we're just really not interested, right? Like, what is this? Nah. And you keep scrolling.
Sure.
So not every caption should be long, and not every caption should be short. It should be a mix of the two. So, for example, a short caption would be, you posted a photo of a glass of rosé, and you said something like, "Today is National Drink Wine Day. Yes way to that rosé." It told you what the day we're celebrating, and it was short and catchy and straight to the point, and we knew what was going on in the photo. A long one would be, let's say you had a photo of a recent blog post and you went on sharing basically a portion of your blog post was your caption.
Okay.
And then you left the link, in your bio so that they would go click on that, of course, and it draws traffic to your website. That would be something that you would do for, let's say, a long caption, or even something personal that you're talking about. Like, let's say, you had this pivotal moment in business and the struggle was real to get to this point. So it would be a caption that you would kind of share about. And obviously the process wasn't just one little thing. Otherwise it wouldn't be called a process. So you would share a bit longer caption of that process to educate and more than likely to inspire fellow entrepreneurs, because, this journey is intense sometimes.
Sure. Well, and something else, and I'll just kind of throw Gary in here again, because he also spoke to this in the last day or two as I was listening to his podcasts. But one of the things he said was where sure, it's probably pretty accurate that the people's attention span these days is not as long. It doesn't tend to be as long, right? It takes a lot more effort to capture their attention for longer than a few seconds. The flip side to that, though, is if you are creating content that's interesting enough, they'll spend the time watching it. They'll watch the long form video, or they'll read the extensive text. So maybe in this case, when we're talking about Instagram specifically, if you've got an image that is captivating or compelling enough, you may be able to drive more attention to that longer form text that you've posted on occasion. And it would enable you to be able to do that. It has to be interesting enough, though, and that's on us to, certainly I think you mentioned studying, or you mentioned here actually, and the notes that you shared with me, the idea of studying the analytics, kind of watching and seeing how your audience responds. You can figure out what type of images capture their attention and they respond to most effectively, and then you can use that then to drive them to some of those longer posts. But I love the idea of variety. I think that's really important for keeping all of our attention. I think that's a really great idea. So good recommendation there. So let's move on now to the second point, the idea of how to or how to effectively use hashtags. This is something else that you really pushed me on personally, and I've begun doing a little bit more. How do we effectively use hashtags in our Instagram posts? And actually, before we even get into how, talk to us about why. What is the significance of using those hashtags?
It stretches your reach.
Okay.
With people across the world, certain hashtags people do look up. Let's say a bride was looking up, let's say, wedding shoes. Again, we'll go back to that using that example.
Sure.
And so she would find the hashtag wedding shoes, and then it would draw her to a feed where the most recent posts of, let's say, that hashtag.
That makes sense. So, and I like the simplicity of the way that you explain that. It furthers your reach. So not only will individuals, brides or otherwise, who are searching for content relevant to your Instagram account, will they be able to more effectively or easily find you? They're going to search a particular hashtag. I would assume, maybe correct me if I'm wrong here, but I would assume that Instagram also will make suggestions in that, I don't know what they actually call it, the little search feed. If you click on the magnifying glass, you see all these different images.
Related hashtags.
Yeah, so that they'll actually put images in that feed that are relevant to their interests. If they've searched that particular hashtag before, they have liked posts with that hashtag before, then it'll fill in that feed with hopefully some of your images as well.
Absolutely.
That makes sense. Okay. So talk to us a little bit more about this process of hashtags then. How do we go about effectively utilizing them?
So let's say you are a photographer in Tennessee.
Okay.
And you want to utilize, let's say, local hashtags that your clients would be searching for in your area. So a mom was looking for a family photographer. So you would be hashtag Tennessee photographer, for example.
Sure.
And basically, it's just a industry-related hashtag on your location. Another thing to do is use variations of that local hashtag. So let's say you're in Tennessee and you're a makeup artist. So you would say Tennessee MUA, so Tennessee makeup artist, or Tennessee, actually usually using the phrase makeup artist.
And that's such a
That
2017 thing to do too, to shorten the phrase as much as possible, or make it as easy to search or to type out as possible. So, but you would actually suggest that shorten it up, use the initials for that particular phrase.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Use and I believe in using hashtags for your dream client, ideal customer, because they search for inspiration. Pretend that you're them and think about who he or she follows. So, for example, let's say you're a girl in your 20s, a woman in your 20s,
Okay.
and you're like ridiculously into fashion. You would do hashtag designers, for example, in a stylized shoot that you did, right? The woman in her 20s is attracted to hashtag designers. And that would then again draw that person back to your account.
That makes sense. Now, I know that I'm looking at again the notes that you shared with me. This hashtag designers, for example, is a prime example of a hashtag that is going to be extremely popular, right? There are going to be a lot of posts with that particular hashtag associated with it. The next point that you made here, and I'd love for you to elaborate on this, is the idea of using hashtags that have less than 300,000 photos already tagged in it. Talk about what that means, or why you should do that, and then maybe what you could do to kind of modify that hashtag designer to use a hashtag that's a little bit less popular, less used, I should say.
Yeah, these are the hashtags you want to use the most, because it'll mean your photos will get the most exposure. Hashtags with more than 300,000 get pushed down because so many people are utilizing that hashtag, and you want to be listed in the top post section. Now, that going back to then with what I said in using the hashtag like Tennessee makeup artist. So what you would do instead of hashtag designer, like you were saying, it's probably a very popular hashtag. You could say Tennessee fashion designer.
Okay, that makes sense.
That is a more specific and condensed hashtag that will probably have 300,000 on down posts.
Right, and then in that case, as you mentioned, if it has fewer posts, then it naturally gets pushed to the top.
Yes.
Okay. Continue to walk us through. I think the next point you were talking about is the idea of using 10 to 20 hashtags. Now that's a lot of hashtags. Why would you use so many?
It stretches your reach, and there's a lot of sometimes variables to the image that you're posting. So let's say you posted, okay, going back to an earlier example, the picture of a glass of rosé. So yeah, you would hashtag what's related to it, so hashtag rosé, and you would hashtag drink National Wine Day because that's the little catchy trend for the day. But you would also target things such as, let's say, hashtag wedding photographer, hashtag weddings, different things like that, because you can actually utilize, because we all drink champagne or wine at weddings, and that furthers your reach. Again, the more hashtags you use, which you can use up to 30, that stretches your reach and broadens the audience and draws more traffic to that post.
Got it. Perfect. And then the last point, take us to that last point about how to use hashtags to gain more followers.
So use 5 big hashtags that may get you featured by other Instagrammers, bloggers, or brands. So, for example, you posted you're remodeling your house, and you posted a picture of the design team that decorated the house, and it was all Martha Stewart inspired. Martha Stewart is a great popular hashtag. If the photography looks amazing, that might actually get you reposted or featured on, let's say, Martha Stewart's Instagram, or featured in they may reach out to you and connect and say, hey, we love that photo. We would love to feature you in, let's say, our spring design home decor line. And that hashtag too, let's say Martha Stewart, since it is such a popular one, those that do look that up, again, they will see your photo and it will draw traffic to your account.
That makes sense. Now, how do I understand this last point of using 5 bigger hashtags? at the same time minimizing the number of hashtags that are so popular, because something like Martha Stewart would be really popular. Hopefully it would get seen, but then we also want our post to go up further or to the top by using hashtags that aren't used so much. So how do you, is that the reason why you say only to use 5? The rest of them we want it to use slightly more obscure hashtags?
Right. Yeah. And you have to think in terms of cross promotion as well. So if I hashtag, Martha Stewart with that, my newly designed living room decor, and then they want to feature it because they like the picture, it kind of cross promoted me, and it grew my exposure.
Sure. Okay. All right. Well, perfect. So this is a great head start into utilizing hashtags more effectively. Again, thanks to Lacey's recommendations and advice, I've begun doing this more consistently and certainly in a more targeted fashion. I think a theme thus far has been specificity throughout this conversation. And I think it's important not only that we have a specific purpose in mind, but then the posts that we're creating, they're very specifically geared toward a target client. And due to that effort, then we're using very specific hashtags that, again, are hopefully not too or overly popular and getting lost in the mix. We want to find some unique hashtags that are relevant, again, to the target client or potential client that we're going after. So this is really great. We're down to the last point about creating more compelling Instagram posts. And this has to do with post strategy and scheduling. So kind of take us through this process.
So I feel that if you're not consistent and you do not produce a regular schedule of content, your account will not be as beneficial for your viewers because they approach accounts with what's in it for me.
So I can't post, just like once a month and then a couple of times here and then a few times there. I have to actually be consistent with it. Okay.
Consistency is key, with anything in life, really, if you think about
it. Absolutely.
And a disciplined schedule above it all. You know what I mean?
But that actually is a great segue then to the next point, because this idea, I know certainly for me, being busy with multiple moving parts, certainly both in my personal life, but then even more so really in my business, there's a lot to keep up with. And I personally enjoy approaching business in the way that I manage my workflow in an efficient manner. The idea of posting on a daily basis can, as little time as it may even take, in some cases it only takes 30 seconds to do that, if even less. But it can still seem like just yet again another item in my to-do list for the day. So the notion of having some type of structure in approaching this, or more specifically a schedule, will help us be more consistent. So how would you go about scheduling your posts?
So me personally, I take about 1 day a month to plan out on a calendar the content that I want to post.
Okay.
And first, where I start off completely first is I pay attention to all the holidays, the fun national days, because those are always, great trends, or little fun quirky days like Taco Tuesday.
Sure.
I don't know. It's a crazy trend. Taco, it draws attention to your account. And
it seems like there are always National Donut Day, National Laptop Day, there's some day for everything. So I think that's a great recommendation, to pay attention to those quirky little days.
Yeah, and see why I like those days. It gives you fillers, because let's face it, it's not always the easiest to come up with inspiring, educational, and fun-looking, fabulous content.
Right.
Especially when you're busy with life. You have children, you have other factors to your personal life. It's not always easy, and I get that. But I start with those days because those are the easy fillers that you can create content for. And then I do what's closest that's happening within the week. So that would be, let's say, okay, I know that on Friday I have an engagement session at Balboa Park in San Diego. So I am going to, on 2 days later or 3 days later, after one of my favorite images is edited, I'm going to post that photo as, let's say, a sneak peek. And that gives you other content that shows people your photography work. It shows them where you're at. It shows a gorgeous couple that's all stylized and in love. And that will draw of course, your ideal client. And
Now, you mentioned scheduling this post, for example, from this session, this particular portrait session.
Uh-huh.
I know Instagram's API, not to get overly technical, but doesn't allow for they're very closed off, just to put it very simply. So, there are lots of different pieces of software out there that allow you to manage and plan social media posts, but you can't actually upload an image in and fully schedule that post. You have to come back and then add the image in. I know you mentioned using a particular piece of software, web-based software, I believe, to handle your posting schedule. What is that piece of software and how does that work?
Planoly.
Okay.
And I absolutely love it. You can actually upload photos to your from your PC. You can schedule your Instagram post from your PC. You upload a photo, you write the caption. It allows you to schedule the time. There's the app too. So what will happen on your phone will give you a notification saying, hey, you said that you wanted to post this photo. And so you just click on yes, you post the photo, copy and paste. It's super easy and it's right there for you. And you can do, again, like this years in advance, scheduling content.
That's great. So it's a bit of a roundabout way, but it gives you the notification. It just kind of feeds it all to you, reminds you, enables you to be able to copy that over, and then you can post it very easily to Instagram. That's a really great tool. We're actually in the process right now of, in fact, we have just hired somebody to come on board and manage our social media for us. And they're going to more than likely be using this particular tool to plan out our posting schedule. So that's a great recommendation. Take us to the last point in this post strategy and scheduling process.
So if you dedicate a series of concentrated efforts to cultivating engagement with your ideal clients, and it extends your reach, you'll see the increase in interactivity, basically. More likes, more comments, even more followers.
So we're right back to that notion of consistency again.
Yeah,
we certainly have to be creating content. Well, again, first of all, if we go back to the very beginning, we need to have a very simple, expressed, very specific purpose in mind for the Instagram account. Then we're posting content that is relevant to and attractive to our target client. But we have to be consistent with that. It's not good enough to post 2 or 3 really great posts and then wait for a week or 2 and then come back to it. We've got to actually be consistent. But if we're consistent, we'll see those results.
Yes, but one thing I want to stress too is don't get overwhelmed by it. Like when I feel like I constantly have to post on social media, you can sometimes get burnt out. So I do take, if I'm starting to feel a little overwhelmed or burnt out with stuff, I do take like a day or 2 hiatus, maybe even 3 days from social media, period. Just to refresh myself, because it, like I said earlier, it's fun, it's exciting. You meet new people through utilizing the world of Instagram, but it can be tiring. It can be, a lot to always think of the next creative post that you're going to make. So
sure.
Taking a break, there's just to recharge yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's not going to interfere with connecting with your ideal client or, sales or whatever your goal is utilizing your Instagram.
Sure, that makes sense. The cool thing, though, about using something like Planoly is that you could hand over that app to a partner, a business partner, a friend, family member, whatever the case, and they could actually manage just copying and pasting those posts that you already created in Planoly for you while you're taking those few days off. I totally get the idea of taking a day or 2 or 3 off. I think it's important on multiple levels, but even applicable to this effort in social media. But again, being able to utilize some of those tools will allow you to fill in those spaces even while you're taking a break. So I think that's really, really great.
It saves you a lot of time. And another great time saver app is called Tagomatic. You type in a hashtag and it will list the 29 best related hashtags. And you basically, all it does is you copy it and you paste it and it goes straight to your into the comment section of your Instagram.
Tagomatic. And is that a iOS app or is that a web-based app or?
It is an iOS app.
Perfect. All right. This is a lot of interesting information and certainly helpful information, Lacey. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to go through all of this with us. Because we are talking about Instagram, where can everyone find you on Instagram?
Oh, you guys can find me at Lacey O Photography.
Lacey O, and that's just all one word, Lacey, Lacey-O Photography on Instagram. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you, everybody, for listening in, and we'll talk to you more soon. Thanks so much for listening to the Bokeh Podcast. If you'd like to hear a particular photographer or entrepreneur in a future episode, don't hesitate to email me, nathan@photographersedit.com. The Bokeh Podcast is brought to you by Photographers Edit, custom post-production for the wedding and portrait photographer.